Hello and welcome to the Chattanooga Film Festival. My name is Dustin Kramer, and I'm so happy to be talking to Neal Dhand, writer and director of Dark My Light, which is available to watch this week as part of our virtual offerings. Thanks for joining us, Neal.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dustin.
Let's start with the logline here. Mitchell Morse's investigation into a beachside serial killer is complicated by his fracturing relationship with his wife, an unpredictable new partner, and his own slipping sanity. And that's just like barely scratching the surface of like what's here. This is a juicy layered piece that you've got here for us. Let's start at the beginning. Tell me about the genesis of this project.
Sure. So there's a couple things. There was this story in maybe Alberta, Canada, somewhere in Canada, where these severed feet kept washing up on shore. That's real life. And people would just find these like feet in sneakers on the shores. And it would happen like once every few years. And I don't know, it's a super interesting story. That's part of Dark My Light. So I took a little of that story. I don't think that was ever solved in reality. I also love like classic detective films, but when I rewatch them, which I do kind of frequently, both American and French, Japanese, they like there are a lot of tropes that I think just like don't play well now. And so I was pretty interested, even though but I still love the form. So I was pretty interested in taking some of those like classic detective genre films and maybe reworking some of the tropes, especially some of like the character representations, which is part of the intention also of Dark My Light. And then I also just think like lighthouses are really cool. I've kind of always loved them. And they play a prominent role in the film as well. I mean, this is like the mishmash of the genesis. You know, I'm sure there's many other stories, but like it was sort of like these images and genre ideas that started it.
Okay, excellent. So I understand in your director's statement, you did talk about how, one of the themes in this is police violence, police overreach, and brutality, and that you had an experience yourself. If you're comfortable talking about that, can you talk about how your experience with state violence worked into the writing of this film?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of the thing that I've always found like interesting about revisiting like police procedurals and things. I mean, I think many films are kind of revised to that. Like I love The French Connection a lot. And I think that Friedkin was pretty aware of the cop as anti-hero or even villain, with Papa Doyle. And so not trying to say that I'm the first to do it, but I was interested in looking at how I think some police violence, some systematic violence can perpetuate other uglier or as ugly events. And it's kind of hard to spoil Dark My Light. So I don't think there's anything that's a spoiler, but that's in there. And so I took that idea, and I can talk about it personally too, and tried to like kind of puzzle it into like this genre envelope. So that concept that like police violence perpetuates other ugliness is like a core of this film. And one of the characters sort of states it later, Emily, who I hope also evolves from like cardboard cutout trope to like real character in the movie. But yeah, when I was I don't remember how old I was, maybe 19. This is the short version of a long story. I got a bunch of staples in my head from a police officer, and I was charged with trespassing on a public street, which made no sense. So the charges were dropped, of course, because they were illogical. I actually wasn't doing anything. I was just it's kind of hard to say the whole thing, but I asked for a police officer's badge number. That's what incited it, which is a legal thing to do.
It certainly is.
He didn't like my question, and so that led to something pretty quick and painful. And it took. I mean, I was really young. Like I said, I was 19 when that happened, and so I think it took me a long time to like just figure out what to do with that. I just sort of, packed it away and whatever that happened. And in some senses that's still true, but it's an event in my life that constantly circles back around. And so it circles back around in Dark My Light.
Did it change your relationship to watching police in films? Were you into films when this happened? And did it like, is it harder to watch? For example, like I feel like there's some buddy cop, DNA in this movie. Yeah.
Totally.
And you're deconstructing that a little bit, and you're adding commentary to that. How did that event like change your relationship to these kind of movies that you otherwise grow up just accepting as like, oh, the cops are the good guys,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it changed it a lot. I mean, I was kind of like, relatively speaking, I think like late getting into film. Like I'm not a person who grew up watching a ton of cinema. I watched some, like my dad got me into like the Marx Brothers and stuff like that, which was really amazing. But around 18 or 19 is when I was really starting to get into film. And so like, yeah, to your question, I was watching stuff then, and I was seeing stuff. I was seeing a lot of like Jean-Pierre Melville stuff, which I also truly still like really love. And it's not always the cops that are like Les Samurai. It's not that, we're not following the cops, but in a lot of those films we are. And I appreciate Melville because his cops are flawed and not always great, but there is like this aura of cool.
Totally.
And so, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, that bugged me a bit, but I just didn't, it was also hard because I was like, I still love these movies. Like just because this thing happened to me and because I have this different perspective now, because of that event, I'm still watching them. I mean, if someone wants to throw on, like, I don't know, a classic buddy noir from the 40s, like, where the detective is the good guy working inside the law, I'll still love it. So
sure. No, I understand that. Yeah. I'm of course I'm very critical of law enforcement myself. But it's hard not to kind of align with the tone and the I guess the overwhelming sense of what the movie wants you to feel. So when you're watching something like like 48 Hours or Lethal Weapon or something like that, where it's just like, oh yeah, these are cool guys, right?
These are cool dudes hanging out. Well, I mean, that's actually like Charles, who's the DP, and I, when we were starting the prep on Dark My Light, like we talked so much about like 3 acts, 3 genres, 3 styles, and like three characters. Like, so, and one of, kind of what we're talking about, one of those acts, Act 1, we were like, this is like buddy cop drama. We were even talking about like Dick Wolf TV shows, like let's, and of course it's not fully like that. There's a lot more mood and stuff like that. But there are these moments that are like a little silly between the 2 cops in that first act. And like, yeah, you said like, these dudes are just like, they're cop dudes doing cop things in the first, at least in the first act. And so you're totally spot on. Like we tried to lean into that as best we could within this form.
I think it's interesting. You've got Albert Jones in here, who was on Mindhunter, and you've got Keisha Sharp, who was in the Lethal Weapon TV series. So there's a bit of like the buddy cop pedigree going into this. Was that intentional? Can you talk about finding your cast, or was that just totally kismet? Like how did that happen?
I mean, it was mostly kismet. Keisha, I love Keisha and Albert and Tom, who plays Dreyfus. Keisha, I've known for a while from a friend of a friend, kind of a friend. And I mean, she's been with this project for longer than anyone but me. And so she's read so many, because the script changed a lot. She's read so many different drafts, and she was always in it. It had nothing to do with Lethal Weapon. I think she was involved with this project before the Lethal Weapon TV series existed. Because the first draft of this is a long time ago. And so no, she was just like, someone introduced me, and Keisha's just like a wonderful person, and I think super talented and has like some real range. Albert,
instant charm too, just absolute, like,
oh my gosh,
the camera loves her, man.
Loves her. Yeah. Totally loves her. Yeah, absolutely. She's so watchable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's the word, watchable. Like, she's absolutely watchable. Yeah.
Albert, we got through our casting director, Jenna Edgemian, and he just like kind of killed it in the first read. It was a Zoom read, and he just like he seemed to understand the layers that were possible in a way that I hadn't really thought of. so for me, he was like an easy choice. Like we saw a bunch of people and it was like, oh, like it kind of has to be this guy. And Albert's also like wonderful to work with. He and Keisha have like very different processes on set, but they're so professional and we're just like in it. Tom, we found through the same casting director, and Tom gave this read for a scene that actually got cut from the film, unfortunately, for the better, but I miss it. But
gotta kill your darling.
Is a totally kill him. But Tom played this scene in this way that was so like it was like a little frightening and like a little slimy, and and so, but it was just full of like kind of crackling character, and yeah, I mean it wasn't boring. And so we watched this read, the producers and I were like who the fuck is this dude? Mm-hmm. And it's funny because he's also just like the most charming person in real life, but he plays this guy who's got some baggage, some issues.
Mm-hmm. The cast is terrific, and finding your right cast is Thanks. Like finding a great co-writer. You can write Rileys all day long, but like the performance is something that you just can't put on the page. And when you find that person that brings that, even if they're saying every word that no ad-libbing, right? It's like they're writing their own draft and making something better out of what you started, and that's a good feeling. And I can that comes across in watching the film is that they were the right people for those roles.
Thanks.
You mentioned something. I want to talk about the themes a little bit. I'm a theme and subtext guy. I really like that stuff. Like
Sounds good.
That's I chew on that stuff a lot. But you did mention in your director's statement that the film explores time and memory, and it got me thinking about this thing that I had heard, and I don't know how true it is, but they say that when you recall a memory, you're actually remembering the last time you remembered it and not the event itself.
I've heard this.
So like any faults in the memory are then like carried over to the new memory and then are potentially added to it. So it's like you're sort of playing like a forever game of telephone. You remember the children's game telephone, like with yourself, where you just pass those mistakes all the way down. Talk about that, the unreliability of memory and how it plays into the themes of Dark My Light.
Yeah, I mean, I always I think most of the films I'm making now, I'm finishing a new film. It's also about memory, and some of that's because now I'm a dad, and so memory and nostalgia has really kind of crushed me. But
same. Big same.
so real. But I mean, in Dark My Light, I was thinking a lot about this this process that I guess other people do, but who knows what happens in other people's brains. Like I always have this experience where suddenly I'll be thinking of something, and then I will realize, I guess, that I'm thinking of this thing, and then I will think this is all happening internally, right? Like why am I thinking of this? And I'll try to retrace the steps that got me to this seemingly arbitrary thought. And it always, I do it all the time. I like it. And it kind of like blows my mind. I'm like, oh, I jumped from there to there. And then this like image of a memory got me to that one. And I'm like leaping across my life, basically. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, we end up like talking about like a chewed up pencil or thinking about, and I'm like, why am I thinking of a chewed up pencil? And so that phenomenon, I like the experience of it. I like how it kind of is a weird way for me to like roll some of the film of my life. And so I wanted to, this is formally, I suppose, but kind of thematically too. Like I wanted to try to formally figure out ways to show that memory is this like series of kind of fast images that don't always align. Mm-hmm. And so some of that, again, formally is what yields like the kind of like weird collision of edits, especially in the first act. The edits are like super abrupt, mm-hmm. and like scenes seem to like kind of get cut off at the head or the tail. And you're like, wait, I'm out of that scene and now I'm in a different scene. Like there's no connective tissue except for the same characters. And I wanted that because that felt like memory. And
it's so interesting that you say that, because I would never have pegged this film as like overly formalist, but like now that you say it, I'm like, like I see it in there. That's super interesting. Like Okay.
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry. I just jumped in there. Continue, please.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I mean, I love hearing a perspective, any perspective. So that's cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, I think then thematically, I mean, a lot of it is, I think it has to do with someone's perhaps misguided attempt to kind of shape their memory the way they want it to be, like idealize their memory, you know, which is also like a phenomenon that like I think is kind of interesting, like remembering an event and then sometimes remembering like kind of two versions of the event. Like I do that now that, you know, I'm in my 40s and I've got a bunch of memories. And
we kind of do that automatically with some
20.
stuff. Like nostalgia works that way, where you know,
absolutely,
we don't necessarily act on those things and try to idealize them. They just happen. Like smell is a big one.
It just happens.
Like I'll
oh my gosh,
I'll smell something and I'll be like, this is my bedroom from when I was a child, like growing up, like in high school. I remember, you know, sitting in my bedroom playing Final Fantasy on my TV in my bedroom, and like it's this smell for whatever smell that is, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's that.
Have you ever had a memory where like someone else was there and they're like, that's not.
Oh, totally.
You know,
oh, absolutely. Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Like those to me are the most fun. Like when someone's like, that's actually not what happened, and you're like, you're like, no, like. That is 100% what happened. And you're like, I was there. And you're like, I was there too. You know,
yeah.
and like, and like those can happen like last Monday, but also like 25 years ago.
Absolutely,
you know?
yes.
So I don't know. I love that. Like I like it. Like in Dark My Light, I think Mitchell is kind of he's actively trying to do that. Like he's like, okay, I had a memory, and let me try to like make it the memory that I want it to be. Mm-hmm. You know, not rather than what we're talking about. He's not just like going into, you know, he's really trying to like, you know, let me see if I can truly and physically idealize my memories. Mm-hmm. So I tried to, I don't know, put some of that in.
Did you struggle at all with the? I don't want to spoil anything. You said that you don't think this is a spoilable movie, but I'm curious.
I don't know.
Did you? So just in case, you know, skip ahead or watch the movie on virtual and then come back. Sure. Did you struggle at all with like the mechanics of the time loop, or was it just was it something that just kind of came naturally through the process of writing it?
No, I mean, I struggled a lot and love what you said, reiterating, pause here and watch the movie and then come back. Well, there's a couple things. Like, first of all, like, sure, there's time loops, but I like, there's a few things I knew I wanted. Like one, like I didn't want some like scientific explanation. Like this isn't Back to the Future. It's not even Time Crimes, which I love. But you know, Time Crimes kind of like goes like, Nacho Vigalondo goes like out of his way to explain a little bit of the science. And like, I love that. So no, you know, I'm not trying to trash talk that movie, but I just knew I didn't want to do it. Like this was really about like a person, you know, you could substitute a time loop for some other thing. It's just that I wanted to play with time. And I also knew that even though I think this might bother some audiences, I'll be curious, but even though it is a time loop movie in some ways, like I don't want it to be a time loop movie, you know, and it is. So I'm like hoping for the best of two worlds, which is a little unfair. Like it is a time loop movie, but I don't want it to be just like the reveal of the time loop should be less interesting, I hope, than the reveal of like who these people are and like what they really want.
Well, I mean,
you know, which I think is revealed in the third act.
But of course, you know, human beings, we're pattern seeing machines and stuff like that.
Totally.
So like we love to group things into categories. So as far as like getting people interested in the movie, I would say that this absolutely belongs in the conversation with movies like Primer. Cool. You know, I think that's totally. Time Crimes is Primer a big
was
one.
Something we talked about a lot.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. That like this is soft sci-fi where it's like it happens and you don't need to know why. It's in service of the story and not, you know, some science fiction, you know, speculation or something like that.
Exactly. I mean, like with I remember the first time I saw Primer, I saw when it came out, and I remember being like so utterly confused, like everyone, but also like really loving it. Yeah. And I just, that was the first time that oddly, and last year at Marienbad, which I saw around the same time, maybe, Of course, Lesser Mary Bud, much older, but both of those films, I was kind of like, I don't totally know what's happening, but I love it. And that was the first time I had those experiences as like, I was like a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of knew that that was something that I was after with Dark My Light. Like, not that it's not that I'm trying to confuse people or be like smarter than people, but I just like this idea. I personally like the feeling of like, giving oneself over to confusion as long as it feels like there is some substance beneath the confusion. I love it when a movie starts to do that. So I was totally after that. And I mean, I wrote like, I can't tell you how many drafts. There are vastly different loops in here, like vastly different ones that I wrote. Like I wrote, one that was basically Dreyfuss's film. One that, went back even further. The loops were much vaster. Loops that were Emily's kind of journey. I wrote almost all of them.
I'd love to see those. That's so fascinating to me. I'd love to see like how those played out. That's fun. Great. Maybe there's a series in the future, right?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, right.
I'm going to change gears a little bit. I think the film is gorgeous, shot on Super 16. I think the small stock gives it so much personality and visual dynamism. What would you say to, like, because we live in a digital world now, and what would I want to know what you would say as someone who has worked with film now to a filmmaker who would like to shoot on film but is kind of scared to take the plunge?
Yeah. Well, I think for one, even though this isn't necessarily the image, I think film does a lot for your performance and the energy of your crew. Once you start rolling, it's live and it's like money going through the gate and everyone knows it. And there's like this holy moment when, secularly speaking, when you roll a film camera, especially now, like maybe it didn't feel that way, when celluloid was dominant, but now when like everyone knows it and everyone's like, I can't be the one to mess this take up. We've only got, like what max of, I remember we did 4 takes on one shot and the AD was like, dude, and the producer was like, you got to stop, So, I think even though that's not image based, it's really, you like,
but that's part of it though. Like that's absolutely like,
beautiful.
That's what I'm after here with this question is like, how is it different? And what would you say to someone who's just like, I want to shoot on film. I love the texture of it. I love the way it looks and feels, but I'm scared, I'd be scared.
Yeah. I think it's scary. We lost a role. That was scary because we're super low budget. So we lost a role. We knew we lost it on the day. So that kind of helped, meaning we could like scramble. It wasn't like we got our dailies 2 days later and we're like, oh my gosh, this role is black. We knew it got flashed on the day. So that was terrifying. A lot of it's super scary.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to trust you got to have a DP and a focus puller you can trust. You always got to have those people, but maybe in my experience more so. Charles, who shot it, he's shot film before. He and I had so much prep because we got basically interrupted by the pandemic. So we were prepping before and then we were just prepping during that. And so we were really ready, if like something wasn't working, we weren't just rolling and figuring it out. Like we had our grammar down and we kind of knew like, okay, especially since we're shooting 16, like this isn't working, cut the camera. This is what we talked about. This is what we should be doing. Again, some of this I think is just like basic film collaboration, but maybe we were just like more kind of precise about it and more and less willing to just like ramble.
Yeah. That's what digital allows you to do is to ramble and, go for 50 takes and, play around a lot. I don't know, like that brings us almost back to formalism where it's like you almost have to apply, a level of formalism to your work because of the limited nature of the film stock. And I think that's, art from adversity and all those things. You can throw a bunch of truisms at it, but I think that speaks to that. But it's a gorgeous film. I think it looks great. And I love that you chose to use film on this. I really just have one more thing, and it's just a fun throwaway question if you're willing to entertain me.
Let's do it. Of course.
All right, you're directing a season of True Detective. Who are your leads?
Okay.
Give me your leads.
Oh my God. Well, I have a kind of a silly, stupid answer. Well, here's a real question. Do they have to be live?
Do they have to be alive? Oh, give me.
Can they be
Okay, give me your zombie version, and then give me the live version and the zombie version. You get two answers.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Well, I would love. It's funny because we were just talking about Melville, and I don't know that I would have loved this guy as a real person, but I loved his performances, which is who is Alain Delon. I would love Alain Delon to be the bad guy, because maybe he was a bad guy. So he's my zombie number one. Oh man. And then zombie number two, maybe zombie number two. I have a weird mishmash. This person's still living, but I love her. She's a legend. Funny, they're both French. So I'm making a French True Detective,
okay.
I guess.
Perfect.
Juliette Binoche.
Oh, great.
My favorite.
That's great. I'd watch the shit out of that.
Dude, what a movie that would, or what a series that would be, right? I think it also might be like a lot of talking, which would be,
totally
be great.
I think that works fine. Yeah. Alain Delon and Juliette Binoche. That is a great pairing for True Detective season 56 or whatever you're.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question. I'm gonna think back to that answer in like 7 minutes and be like, what a ridiculous answer.
It. Yeah, no. I mean, you could go Cheech and Chong. You could go real silly if you wanted to.
Dude, Cheech and Chong True Detective, I would watch tomorrow.
Oh my God, I'd watch it right now. I'd just hang up on you.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, this is on.
Well, that's really all I have for this. Thank you so much, Neal, for joining us this year. Thank you for bringing your film, Dark My Light, to the Chattanooga Film Festival. It's available this week on the virtual side, so head over to Eventive, where we have our virtual listings, and check it out at your convenience. We're going to be setting up a watch party, which is not scheduled as of the recording of this, but we are going to get that locked down, and then we can all join together on Discord and chat about the movie while watching it, and it's going to be a really good time. Neal, thank you so much for joining us this year.
Dustin, thanks so much for the questions, for bringing the film to Chattanooga. I really appreciate it.